In a warming world, competition is hotting up across sport. And if it's almost unbearable for spectators, what about the athletes out in the firing line?
Felt like being in a sauna because it was just that hot. Have not been able to play sport since that day.
Trying to thrive, but increasingly just aiming to survive.
You have to just expose yourself to the heat.
The only sorts of records in danger of being broken are by extreme temperatures. Georgia Taylor-Brown is a triathlon world champion, and in that event, Great Britain's most successful female Olympian. She knows all about racing in extreme heat. Some of her biggest wins, like at the Tokyo Olympics, came in sweltering conditions. Conditions Georgia adapts to much closer to home by training at a heat chamber in Leeds that can also replicate humidity to help her body adjust.
Things like the sweat patches, we can see how much I'm sweating, but also how much salt and sodium I'm losing, because you want to sweat more, but you want to make sure you're not losing too much salt so that you don't cramp.
Over the course of your career, have you seen heat become more of a challenge?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, like races now are getting a lot hotter.
How much harder does the heat make it?
It's so much harder, and you really have to think about how you're preparing for it more, and you have to just expose yourself to the heat. For me, a big thing is like, thank you, like to know that I'm going to get hot, but like I'm not going to die.
That is the serious threat, though. The symptoms of heat exhaustion, from cramp and dizziness to organ failure, can be triggered in much lower temperatures than what Georgia's trying to get used to.
Here's what athletes have been up against recently. Footballers at the Club World Cup held in the USA over the summer had to be given a cooling break in each half of matches as temperatures reached 36 degrees Celsius, particularly concerning with the most watched sports event of all, the World Cup, set to be held in the States next summer. And last month in China, tennis players faced similar temperatures with very high humidity at 80%, prompting Danish player Holger Rune to ask match officials, do you want a player to die on court? While Emma Raducanu retired from her first round match with dizziness.
And in Australia, even a decade ago, it was those sorts of temperatures that ended Amy Steele's career, a former Australian international netball player who'd just broken her club's fitness record when she got heat stroke after a match.
You walked into the stadium and it felt like being in a sauna because it was just that hot in the room. I collapsed on my way out to the car and then, have not been able to play sport since that day.
And it's still affecting you even now?
Even things like a really hot day, my brain will start to go into a bit of a stroke-like pattern and I'll forget things. I'll just forget like where sometimes I've forgotten how to speak, where I live.
What goes through your mind now when you see these athletes competing in extreme temperatures?
I could not watch the Australian Open tennis because it just like my insides just felt sick watching and knowing how hot it was. And we've had deaths in Australia actually within the last 3 years in things like rugby league where that's it, that's loss of life.
Although humans can adapt well to the heat, and this type of training has become standard procedure in many sports as athletes try to keep up with climate change and demanding schedules.
We're seeing more events going out to Asia, the Middle East, and still doing it in the summer, so organisers could be doing more.
The president of World Athletics, Seb Coe, recently said the global calendar of Olympic sports may need to be re-engineered because of climate change. So we asked the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, what it's doing to protect athletes.
So, for example, in Paris, we shifted some games, football games, that were meant to be played in Marseille. That was a hotter city in France, actually. So those games have been shifted to another city. So we are working on the education of the athlete. We are working on various countermeasures, such as shade provision, ice provision.
And looking ahead, the next Summer Olympics in 2028 is in Los Angeles in July. Is that a good idea?
We have to be ready for very hot ambient conditions, hotter than Tokyo was, probably the hottest so far.
Do you think we'll get to a point where certain cities that have hosted the Olympics in the past just won't be able to in future because of the climate.
It may happen.
And perhaps sooner than we think.
Climate change isn't in the future, it's already causing near end-of-life experiences for people who've got no vulnerability whatsoever, the fittest person in the team, and they're still suffering from heat stroke. So it's not happening in some far-off place, it's like on our back door.
Without action from decision makers, athletes fear they simply won't be able to keep up with a rapidly warming world.